welcome. I'm so glad you guys made it. And just to give you an idea of some things that are going to be going on, this presentation is, of course, on forming new relationships after loss. So I'm assuming that most of you are here because you have had a loss at some point in your life. This is going to be part one of the presentation, and next month I'm going to do part two. So this is a two-parter. It was too long to do it all in one presentation, so I split it up. So today we are going to talk about establishing new relationships after loss, and primarily focusing on expanding our support networks and establishing new friendships. This presentation, we're going to talk about expanding our support networks and making new friends. In part two, we're going to take that a little step further and talk more about significant relationships. So if you're interested in jumping back into that realm of life, you'll definitely want to come back for part two. Okay, after a loss, one of the biggest things that people experience is extreme loneliness. Just not having, especially if you've lost a spouse, not having that person there to talk about your day with, to discuss the coronavirus situation with, to talk about your ups and downs, the kids, the grandkids, and everyday little things. You're used to having someone there to talk about, to get feedback from, to make decisions with, and all of a sudden that person may not be there anymore. And it can be very, very lonesome. Also in Florida, we have some special circumstances. Florida is a retirement state. So people move down here to retire. It's a lot of people, it's their life dream to get away from the cold and the snow and the shoveling and the bad conditions and come someplace where it's warm and comfortable and sunshiny. And they come to Florida, leaving their family and friends in different states across the nation. So when you move down here to retire and it's just you and your spouse, and then you lose that person, sometimes you're down here all alone with family spread out everywhere. Another situation, if you had a loved one who was ill before they died and you were their caregiver, a lot of times when we are caregiving someone who is very ill, we drop out of society pretty much. Our number one priority is taking care of them and their needs. So we end up moving away from our social networks and our social connections because we have more important things to do. Going to the bridge club or the garden club is no longer important. We have to stay home and make sure our loved one has their needs met as best as we can. So we kind of lose touch with some of our social network. And some people just do everything as a couple. They didn't have a lot of outside social activities. They didn't have a lot of outside friends or things that they did. They did everything as a couple. And when part of that coupleship is gone, they find themselves very much lost and alone. Desperate and lonely. That's kind of dramatic, isn't it? We seek to fill the void sometimes in all the wrong places. You cannot replace your loved one who has died. But sometimes we try to do that. Sometimes we are so lonely and so desperate to have someone in our life or a special connection that we seek out and hook up with people that for all the wrong reasons. someone who pays us a little bit of attention, somebody who's kind to us, somebody who smiles at us, or, you know, we can misinterpret those signals because we are so lonely and want to be hooked up with somebody. We want somebody in our life special. But we suggest that you allow yourself time to heal before you move into those types of relationships, which we call significant relationships. And the way we do that is we work on developing a larger support network for ourselves and getting some new friends. So that's what we're going to start with. That's where we should all be starting after loss, is not jumping from my marriage to another significant relationship, but instead going to expanding my social support network and getting some new friends in my life. So how do we do that? You guys have a handout. It's just a sheet that says My Support Networks. I want you to get that out, and hopefully you all have a writing implement, because we're going to write on it. You're going to write on that today. That's going to be your own worksheet. We're going to look at who your support network is right now so that you have an idea of where do you need to put some energy. Some of you are going to have a very healthy support network and some of you aren't. But it's good to know that, and it's good to see where do I need to start nurturing and developing some more people in my life. So under each of these categories, and we're going to talk about each one of these individually, I want you to be writing down people in your life that are on your support network in that category. And the first one is our family. So if you have family, if you're one of those fortunate people that has family in this area that are supportive, and not all family is, but family who is supportive, maybe you have a sister-in-law, or maybe you have a cousin or a brother, and you know, you may have some family that are here or in Florida or nearby who are supportive of you, that call you up, that want to check on you, make sure you're okay, that say, we're coming to see you this weekend. Those are people you want to put down on your support network. So go ahead and write, as you think of people, write them down. You might also have family that don't necessarily live in Florida. Maybe they're in Michigan, maybe they're in New York, maybe they're in Indiana. But they call you on a regular basis, they touch in with you, they stay connected. Maybe you FaceTime with them so you actually get to see them. Those people you want to also put on your support network. Just because you can't reach out and touch somebody doesn't mean they're not supporting you in a positive way. The next category is friends. If you have a BFF, your best friend forever, of course you put them on your support network. You may have friends that you've met here since you've moved to Florida, that you've done things with, that maybe you golfed with them, you did activities with them, maybe they lived close to you, people that you've hung out with, people that have been a good friend to you, people that understand as much as they can your loss and what you've been going through and support you in a positive way. You definitely want to put those people on your support network. Neighbors can be friends, but they don't have to be. But they can still be on your support network. If you have neighbors who can keep an eye out on the house when you're out of town, or in our case, we have neighbors. My husband has neighbors He tells all the guys, look, come on over, I'll show you where everything is, and if you ever need something, come and get it. Just make sure you bring it back when you're through. So there's kind of that open garage policy. They borrow each other's stuff when they don't have it. That's a nice neighbor. And that's a supportive neighbor, or somebody that'll go and get your mail or pick up your paper if you're out of town for a weekend. If you have neighbors like that, they can be a great support. So make sure you put them on your support network. Now, if you've belonged to any clubs, organizations, any kinds of activities like Rotary or a contributor to the Key Training Center, or maybe you're at Pilot Club, the Garden Club, the Elks, the Moose, AMVETS. I mean, I could go on and on and on. There's so many clubs and organizations around here. If you've belonged to any of those, there are probably people there that you have nurtured relationships with and friendships with. Make sure you put them on your support network. And sometimes, again, if you've had to pull out of your socializing due to caregiving or for any other reason, it may be time to revisit some of these organizations. Those people are still there, and they probably still really care about you, even though you haven't been around for a while. Another good support network that a lot of people have is through their church or religious affiliations, whatever those may be. A lot of people have a very strong church family of friends and support people, pastor, rabbi, minister, priest. These are people, if you have those kinds of connections, that you definitely can use on your support network. Any support groups that you've been a part of. There's a lot of different kinds of support groups. There's TOPS, there's AA, NA, Al-Anon, Codependence Anonymous. There's all kinds of support networks and support groups out there. Maybe you have been a member of one of these support networks in the past. You could find a lot of good support going back there and revisiting that. Those people are still there and still care about you. I put down professionals. And by this, these aren't people that are personally supporting of us, but they support us in other ways, such as a good accountant or tax attorney, somebody that you can put your papers together and hand it to them and say, here, take care of this for me. What a great support that is. A good attorney, a good physician, a doctor that you've been with for a long time is priceless. Somebody who knew your spouse, who knows you, who's been with the family for a while. They understand you. They understand what you're going through. They understand your loss. They're there to support you and help you. These are the kinds of professionals that you may have in your life, and be sure if you do to put them on your support network. And my last category I put down is adjunct support people. And by that, I mean people that help us get something done. Now, generally, we have to pay for these services, but it's worth it. When you're going through a loss, it takes a lot of energy to grieve. We are lethargic, we're tired, we're unmotivated. We don't feel like doing much of anything, especially not keeping the yard up, keeping the pool up, cleaning the house sometimes. We're just not there. We don't have the motivation, we don't have the energy. So these are your adjunct support people. Even if you use them for a short period of time, it can help lighten the load. They can be a great support to you. Your hairdresser, the person that cuts your hair, the person that grooms your dog. I mean, there's so many different support people out there. Put them on your support list because they are important people to us. They help us get through a very difficult time when we cannot do everything on our own. So as we talked about the different support categories, and you've been writing hopefully down some of your own support networks, how do you feel about your support right now? Does anybody feel like they have a pretty good, strong support network? Or does anybody feel like, wow, I'm really lacking right now? Where are you guys at, Karen?
I'm still at the point, being new here, that except for this group here, I don't really have a doctor here or anyone outside. That just my family that's here and the group that I have met through you.
Okay, so you're still in the process of nurturing a support network. Okay.
But you know, I'm going to be here for a long time, so I'm sure that will develop as time goes on. It's just the COVID came in and wiped it all.
Yeah, it did, didn't it? I know a lot of people I work with had started really making some headway, getting out, doing some things, connecting with people, and all of a sudden it just stopped. Everything stopped. But hopefully that won't last forever as we are slowly moving back into. Anybody else feel good about your support network? Becky, you're shaking your head. Is your support network lacking? Okay. So you really need to look at some ways to develop and nurture that a little bit better. Does anybody feel good about their support network? Pat?
I meet a friend, well, her husband has dementia. I meet her twice a week, Tuesday and Thursday at 2, down at Cattle Door in Inverness. And a matter of fact, and I meet her on Sunday with her husband, and we'll have lunch there. Now, I've had other friends that are starting to get involved that are meeting us there too. They've been in the same situation, because my husband did have dementia, and I did go to a support group there. So I met these ladies that way.
Right.
And they're widows, except for this friend now. So, and she says it's a big help for her, and I said, no, it's a big help for me to be able to see you. So I feel I have, and matter of fact, I met the one friend, I locked my keys in my car yesterday, so I had to call her. So she came down, and then we went out for dinner, and then she was saying how close we are, the four of us, that we've been in this predicament, and we didn't think, who would know that you would make friends that way, losing your mate,
right.
your husband. And I said, I agree with you. I said, I think we'll be friends for the rest of our lives because we've all been through the same situation.
Right.
So I feel I have a good support group.
Good. And I have a client that I've worked with over the years who her husband was in the hospital. He had Parkinson's, and he ended up actually in a nursing facility. And while she was going to visit her husband every day, there was a gentleman whose wife was in the same facility with Parkinson's, and they kind of supported each other, watching as their spouses declined, and then both of them ended up dying. And they became fast friends and have supported each other beyond that. So it brought them together. So those common situations do bring us together. Okay, so most of us find when we actually sit down and start identifying who our support is, that we don't have have as much as we would like. Some people have a very good support network, but a lot of us don't for various and different reasons. So what do we do about that? Well, one thing we can start doing is reconnecting with people who were already on our support network. For example, of everybody you have listed under your families, your friends, your neighbors, when was the last time you picked up the phone and called one of them? Now, one of the things we do in grief, we pull in during the winter of our grief, we pull in and we kind of withdraw and we kind of isolate from people. And that's a natural part of the process. But in doing that, a lot of times we kind of keep our support people at a distance because we can't deal with it. We can't deal with it. So they back off in love for us and concern for us. They back off and they let us do our thing. But when we start coming out of that winter of grief and we want to start reconnecting, we can't just sit at home and go, gosh, I wonder why they haven't called me. Maybe it's time you picked up the phone and called them to let them know that, you know what, I'm ready to reconnect again. It's real easy to pick up the phone and call somebody and say, hey, why don't we meet up at Cattle Dog and have a cup of coffee? We can sit outside in the fresh air. We have to do that. We have to reach out to people and let them know that we are ready again to start reconnecting, because they may have backed off and they may be sitting there waiting to hear from us when we're ready. We also need to start accepting invitations again. And when we're grieving, we don't feel like doing anything. We don't feel like going out. We don't feel like socializing. But as we start to heal and we start to move out of that part of our grief, it's time to start accepting some of those invites. You know, you may get in the habit of saying no so much that you forget that it's okay to say yes. And the next time somebody says, hey, we're getting together, we're going to go do this, why don't you come and go with us? Instead of saying, no, I don't think so, I'm not, maybe it's time to say yes. Think about saying yes. Maybe it's time to get back to some of those groups and meetings and activities that you used to be a part of. You know, maybe you were active in the Corvette Club. Maybe it's time to call them up and say, hey, when's the next meeting? I think I'm going to come. And I can tell most of you in here are Corvette people, right? But whatever it happened to have been, your garden club, your bridge club, your golf group, whatever it happens to be, maybe it's time you took that step and said, you know, I'm ready to go shoot a round of golf. Get back connected with people. Schedule appointments. That makes it easy. People are busy these days. Call somebody up. What are you doing? How about next Wednesday at 2 o'clock? Let's get together and go for a little walk in the park. You know, and I know today we're being more creative with how we're getting together with people because of COVID. But their outdoor activities are relatively your safest bet. So with the heat coming on now, it's already getting warm. You might want to do some things in the morning. Get up in the morning, call a friend and say, hey, I'm going walking tomorrow morning. Why don't you come and join me? Connect with somebody. Expand your circle of people and expand yourself as a person. Now here's some novel ideas. Take a class. I know a lot of people take online classes. You don't meet anybody that way. Taking a class, and I know, again, with the coronavirus pandemic, so many of our activities that we usually connect with have been limited severely. But they're slowly starting to come back as we phase into the end of phase 1 and move into phase 2 of getting back into life again. There are things we can do. You can, the libraries usually have classes. There's all kinds of things going on at the libraries once they reopen again fully. The community centers have classes. I had a client who started going to a beading class at the community center. She had never done it before in her life. And she said, I needed to get out of the house and do something. So I saw that the community center had this beading class, and she went, and she absolutely loved it. And she started making really nice jewelry and bracelets and necklaces, and she'd bring them and show them in group, and it became a real passion for her. And it got her out of the house, and she met a whole new group of people that were involved in the beading group. Join a club or a cause. You know, there's a lot of organizations that actually do good things in our community. The Rotary Club, the Pilot Club, they actually do good things for the community. Friends of the Wildlife Club, things like that. Friends of the Humane Society. There's all kinds of organizations that actually have a purpose, and a good purpose for our community. Maybe you could get involved in something like that that's you're passionate about, or that you have a interest in. And by the way, all the dirt and the sand on the side of our entrance here, we have a gopher tortoise. So he's our new resident. And we're leaving him alone and letting him do his thing there. So we're thrilled about that. Become a volunteer. There are so many opportunities in Citrus County for volunteers. And just about doing anything you can think of, from hands-on working with people to sitting in a little cubicle and doing your own thing. And everything in between, based on what your needs are and what your interests are. We are always looking for volunteers. We are always looking for volunteers that can come, and especially now we're moving into a really neat direction with our organization, Friends of Citrus and the Nature Coast, which, you know, we provide bereavement services to anyone in Citrus County, no matter what age or stage of life you're at. We're doing all kinds of new programs. We're going to start some evening groups. We're going to start a divorce group. We're going to start working with children. We've just got all kinds of things that are going to be happening. And our volunteers are valuable to us. We need volunteers because we are solely supported by donations and our thrift stores, which right now doesn't cover all our expense. So our volunteers are very, very important to us. If you're looking for a place to volunteer, we will take you. But there's lots of other opportunities to volunteer. You can volunteer at the wildlife park if you love animals. You can volunteer with the Reading Pals program if you want to work with children. I mean, there's just so many different areas. You can volunteer at CASA if you have an interest in working with abused women and families. So there's just a lot of different opportunities for volunteer, and you will meet some really nice, wonderful people just doing that. Take risks. Say yes. You know, sometimes we have to step out of our comfort zone. You know, the other day, I was sitting at home having a glass of wine, and my mom, who lives with me, and she's 88, going on 89 years old, looked over and she said, "Oh, you've got white wine," because I usually drink red. And I said, "Yeah, would you like some?" And she looked at me for a minute. She goes, "No, I better not." And I said, why not, Mom? You're 88 years old. What's it going to hurt, for goodness sakes? Have a glass of wine. Say yes. Say yes. You know, sometimes we get into that place where we're, oh, I better not, or no, not today, or oh, I don't know if I should do that or not. Why not? Throw caution to the wind. Say yes. How much time do you have? How much time do any of us have? We never know. We never know. Live your life. Say yes. Invite someone to lunch. You know, there's a group of how many of us? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, including William. You could turn to your right, you could turn to your left and say, would you like to go to lunch one day next week? And there you go. You've started possibly a new, solid friendship. And that's all it takes. And I bet everyone in here would be honored if they were asked to go to lunch with somebody. I mean, that's how easy it is, but somehow we make it very difficult. Talk to people you see at the grocery store, the post office, the doctor's office. You know those people that they say they never met a stranger? Well, that's my husband. My husband has never met a stranger. He can talk to anybody, anywhere, anytime. He comes home with recipes. He comes home with new ways to fix some kind of squash or something that he found, that he happened to talk to some lady at the grocery store, and they got talking about this vegetable, and she told him a whole new recipe about how to cook it. And he comes home going, well, I learned a new way to cook this. And then we have it that night for dinner. I mean, he talks to everybody. If he needed friends, he would have friends coming out his ears, because he's just an open person like that. He can talk to anybody. Now me, I'm just completely the opposite. I go in the grocery store, I have my list, I get what I need, I might smile or nod at somebody, and I'm out of there. And I wonder why I don't have as many friends as he has. It's a big difference when you start reaching out and talking to people. Take an exercise class or join a gym. I have nothing but positive, wonderful things to say about our YMCA. I am a member, and I do a support group there. Right now, they've just reopened. They're doing it very cautiously and carefully, and they're limiting how many people are come in, and you have to make reservations, I think, to get in. But as we move, again, forward with our phases of reintegrating from our social isolating, it was a great place. They had several coffee pots set up. You could go in, you could get a cup of coffee, you could hang out, read the paper, wave to all your friends, meet new friends. What a wonderful, there was classes there. And of course, on top of all that, there is exercise. You can actually go and get in a little bit better shape. You're going to meet people. You take one of their exercise classes, you're going to meet people. Before I had my hip replacement, or no, it was right after I had my hip replacement, and I was trying to get back into moving good again. I joined a little aerobics class, and they said, just do what you can do. So I'm over there just doing what I can do, you know. And everybody came up and talked to me, all the ladies. And at the end of the class, they were like, oh, it was so glad to have you come and join the class. Come back, you can do it. You know, just take your time. And it was like they were so nice and friendly. I thought, wow, what a dynamite place. That's a gym. I mean, it's amazing where you find people. You might want to even think about a part-time job. Some of you are done with work. I get that. But some of you have that little extra energy still in you and still want to get out there and be productive and do something. You will meet people. You will meet people on a job, whether it's a paid job or a volunteer job. The community center, I'd mentioned that earlier. The community centers have all kinds of classes. They have all kinds of cards, pinochle, dominoes, bridge. They have all kinds of things like that. Each community center in our county has different things going on. And there's one in every area of our county. Go check it out. See what they have to offer when they open up again. Adopt a pet or offer to pet sit for a friend or neighbor. What a nice, kind gesture. You know, somebody's going out of town. They got to go visit Uncle so-and-so who's in the hospital and not doing well, and they've got the dog that they can't really take on this trip, and volunteer to take pet sit. It gets you in better with the neighbor, and it gives you some company. I've had several people who, through this social isolating and self-quarantining, have said how thankful they were they had a pet during that time. And I've even had a few people say, I've thought about going out and getting one during all this, because how nice it would have been to have had something at home to talk to and love on. And I know it's not for everybody, but it is an option. Invite friends for a potluck. Karen, she did that. And you can sit outside. You can put chairs out in the lanai. You can do what you need to do to practice your safety guidelines. But how nice to start again having people come into your home. And I know after loss, sometimes we don't have people come into our home for a long time. It just becomes our little refuge and our safe place, and we don't invite people in. Maybe it's time to start inviting people in instead of pushing them out. And expect some rejection. Not everybody is going to say yes. Not everybody is going to say, yes, I want to go to that potluck, or yes, I'd love to have lunch with you. Some people may not be ready for that, especially, again, with the coronavirus. A lot of people are not comfortable going out yet. They're just not. Please try not to take that personally. I went to an event last weekend, not this past weekend, but the weekend before, and it was outdoors. It was on 25 acres. So there was plenty of room to socially distance. It was the first time my husband and I had gone out to something where there was going to be other people. And we had talked about it, and I said, you know what, I want to practice my social distancing, and I still wear a mask when I go to the grocery store, or if I go to the drugstore or any place like that, I have my mask on. But because this was going to be outside on 25 acres, I thought, oh, I won't need my mask. I'll just go and keep my social distance. Well, would you believe people were coming up and wanting, oh, we haven't seen you in so long. And I would just say, I'm sorry, but I'm socially distancing. And some people got offended. Some people got offended and just kind of went, well, sorry. I had one person do that to me. And I was just like, well, so much for you. But, you know, I didn't really care at that point. I've got to do what I have to do for myself. But the point is, not everyone will be receptive to your invites. Don't take it personally. There are plenty other people who will. Plenty of other people out there who are longing for friendships and longing for someone to invite them to join in. And in conclusion, for part 1, we're all lonely and we need human contact. With the COVID virus, I think that has gotten even worse because we have been so distanced from everybody. I think a lot of people are actually touch deprived. If you don't have a close family member or another loved one around that you can hug and touch and feel comfortable being around, it's been very hard not being able to be close to your friends or hang out with people that you normally hang out with and are close to. So it's actually been worse for a lot of people right now. But we are starting to loosen up with our limitations and our restrictions. You guys are here today. That's huge. This is the first presentation I've done since all this stuff happened and started back in March. So I wasn't sure how many people would come and how many people would be here, and I was good with that. I want everybody to feel safe. I want everybody to feel comfortable. I appreciate that you guys stepped out of your safety zone and comfort zones to be here today. But that's going to continue to happen, hopefully. And more things are going to be opening up, and more opportunities to be with people and to socialize are going to be happening. So hopefully you've heard some of those things that we've talked about today. Maybe jotted some things down. Maybe you heard something that you hadn't thought of. That, wow, yeah, maybe I should call those people and reconnect. Or maybe I should go back to that club that I used to be a member at. Or maybe it is time to volunteer, Karen. We want Karen. We want Karen. She used to be a teacher, and we need someone to work with our kids. So we're hoping to bring her in. But yeah, it's time to start venturing out a little bit, both with the coronavirus and with your opening yourself up to socializing in a safe way. And everybody's got to make that judgment for themselves. That makes sense?